to tune into. It's time to get hungry for Let's Talk Wrestling on the Spinning Heel Kick podcast. It's time to tune into. It's time to get hungry for Let's Talk Wrestling on the Spinning Heel Kick podcast.
And it's the Spinning Heel Kick podcast. I'm your host, AJ, as always, and I'm doing it a little bit different on the intro. It's not just me. I'm bringing back one of my old guests of the podcast, a huge supporter of the podcast, one of my favorites. I got my man, Victor Sterling, back on the podcast, brother. How is it going?
Hey, it's good, AJ. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I reached out. I tweeted out that, you know what, I was in the mood of just podcasting and just do an improv podcast, and you were the first one to shine up, and I was like, man, this is my guy, man, a huge supporter of the podcast, so I always appreciate you, and I noticed you're always retweeting, liking my tweets, shouting me out, and you tweeted out a picture of you rocking the shirt, so, man, I appreciate the love, man, that you give to the podcast.
Of course, man. I'm always there to help out people from San Jose, Spartan Pride and all that, so if you got a good thing going for you, I'm there to help you out.
I appreciate that, and this week it was cool to have you on the intro because you have a relationship, good chemistry with my guest this week, who is Tony Vargas, Mr. One Half of Chaos Inc. And what he says, the rise of the machines is coming. Describe your relationship with Tony because I know you guys have a great friendship.
Oh yeah. So Tony and I actually started training on the same exact days each other. I was a scrawny 18-year-old kid, and this dude was, fresh out of pro football, still doing MMA fighting. I mean, he's still undefeated. He's still a champion. This dude's just a beast. And for months and months and months of training, him and I were just one-upping each other. We were like, oh, you could do that? Well, watch me next time. I'll do it better. One of us would do it better. Be like, okay, but let me add this little spin to it. So it was a great, friendly rivalry I think we had going on. And him and I always push each other to the limits. It's still now these days, if we have an idea for each other, if we have something in mind, we'll tell each other about it, practice it on each other. I don't care if that guy kicks my ass. I'm sure he doesn't care if I stiff him a little bit, but, it's nothing but love between the two of us.
Yeah, and that's cool to see that. And, I think you need that type of relationship in the business to, work hard and, you get in a competitive mood and try to outdo one another. And at the end of the day, you guys are friends and you guys are trying to help each other go to that next level of pro wrestling. So that's really cool to see that. Did you guys ever travel up and down the roads together?
Yeah, we have a couple times. He gets out on the road quite a bit more often than I do, trying to catch up to him. But a few times we have been on the road. It was many years ago, one of the first Fighting Spirit Pro shows that I was on and that ever happened or whatever. A bunch of us from Big Time Wrestling went together. And most recently, him and I debuted a tag team together at a APW Nevada up in Reno. And, it's always a good time. Even just hanging around the ring, but we train in Newark, it's always good.
You got any funny road stories that involves Tony? Not to put him on blast or anything, but any classic stories that you can share that's appropriate?
That's appropriate. Dude's always funny. It's pretty good with ribs, but let's say the most recent one, when we were driving back from Reno, it's got to be 1 a.m. at this point on the way back to the Bay Area. And Alex Goldstein is asleep in the back, our referee. And Tony turns on the lights, we slam on the brakes, and he just starts screaming at the top of his lungs just to make it seem like we were in an accident or something. Totally messed up and dark humor, but it's just funny stuff like that. He's great.
Yeah, how is Goldstein? Because it seems like he's that guy that everybody kind of picks on.
It's interesting to say, but every group of friends has that one guy. It just always ends up happening, but Alex is always entertaining, no matter what. He's a great dude, but do know the business that he puts himself in situations, but it's nothing but love, and it's just funny to watch him. He's definitely out to get rid and to rid people himself.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get too. I've only met him once, and I was just hey, how you doing? I'm AJ type of deal. But he seems like a real good dude, and seems like he'll help anybody that needs it. And I love the gimmick. I don't know if it's like a true gimmick or not, but like the way he referees it's cool. Like it's different from any other referee that I see.
But no, he's totally professional. Like he has a passion for this business a lot more than some of the boys in the back. Just to tell the truth, like he lives and breathes the business. And I mean, I think you can totally tell when he does referee because he tries not to make any mistakes whatsoever. He takes it 110%.
Yeah, and he gets a lot of heat from the fans too, and he handles it really well. He gets a lot of heat for a referee.
Yeah, the fans are New York.
That's for sure, man. You just had a match a couple weeks ago with Adam Thornstyle, man. How'd you feel about that match?
You know, I liked it a lot. I was looking forward to it just so much ever since I found out from Kirk and the guys that I was going to wrestle Thorn. So it's the first time ever. And, you know, he's just a different kind of machine. He's one of the best that we have right now. And, you know, being the current king of the Indies, I definitely want to step my game up. And so I did everything I could just to make sure I was at my best performance. You know, my diet changed. I wasn't drinking any alcohol. I was doing, you know, at least every day or maybe a couple of days at the gym from time to time. And I just wanted to make sure, like, I could put on the best match I could. And I think it went really well. The fans seemed to like it. He seemed to like it. So I was pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to stay for the show that night, but I did hear, like, great reviews. And, you know, at the end of the match, I believe he tweeted out, you know, he put you over, which is really cool to see somebody that, you know, he has that label of being, you know, a superstar on the indie circuit. Obviously, he's the king of the indies. But for him to put you over like that was cool to see, you know, for me to see that because, you know, obviously you're my boy and, you know, you getting that spotlight is real cool. And obviously he ain't joking, man. You got that talent.
Yeah, no, it was great. I definitely appreciate that. Like, he didn't have to go out of his way to do that, but, you know, nothing but respect.
So, we're in the holiday season. You know, something I'm struggling with right now, and I posted a Facebook status. You know, I like to think that I'm good at everything. You know, it's that confident side of me. But the one thing that I've been struggling with and I can't perfect is wrapping presents, man.
Dude, horrible. I'll get one side of the wrapping paper done just, like, perfectly. And then once I fold it over, it just looks like shit.
That's the same thing that happens to me, bro. And I make sure that, like, the crappy side of it is the bottom part.
Yeah, I try my best, but we're guys, you know, whatever.
You know, we're not made to wrap gifts, you know. Like, I used to be known as the guy that just puts a whole bunch of tissue paper in the gift bag and put in the little gimmick in there. But, you know, my girlfriend calls me out and tells me, yo, you got to, like, wrap the presents, like, prove to me that you can do it. And I can't do it. Like, I'm struggling, man.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired skill.
So, like, you know, when it comes to gifts, man, do you usually get, like, one or two gifts, or, like, how many people are you shopping for? If you do gifts.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean, there's immediate family and there's my closest friends and my girlfriends. But I know some people that'll just, like, get it for everybody, which, to be honest, I would never do that. As bad as that sounds, like, I'll be at work and just people left and right will be getting gifts for, like, everybody. I'm like, oh, well, I don't have that kind of mind frame, so happy holidays, everybody. But when it comes to personal life, I'm more sure just, like, immediate family and, you know, my closest friends.
Yeah, that's the same way I am too, man. Like, I try to keep the list as short as possible and give it to the people that, you know, really mean something to you and, like, you know, do a lot for you. So that's, you know, just another way of showing appreciation is being able to give them a nice little gift.
And now you got all those Spinning Heel Kickpodcast shirts to give out, so that's another.
Exactly right. Before we jump into this interview with Mr. Tony Vargas, man, like, what's some things you could say about Tony, man? Some positive things, and, you know, what he means to you as, like, in a personal, you know, sense and in the business.
He was a beast. I mean, like I was saying earlier, he's been in pro football, like, he did NFL, he did, you know, other variations of football, played multiple positions. He's been in MMA. He's actually training for a fight right now, and he's undefeated. he is still a champion. He's just legit. There's actually this one show we had a couple years ago, and I forget like when exactly it was offhand right now, but he wrestled at BTW, and the next night flew out to Mexico to finish his championship, and he came back the next day to go to work. Like, he's just a hustler, and he's one of those guys that he puts his mind to something, and he will not stop until he accomplishes it. The whole time he's just, cool, calm, and collected, totally humble. He knows he's a badass, and he'll tell everybody, but you get that feeling where he's just like, all right, we'll just sit, relax, see what happens, but at the end of the day, I'm going to look your ass.
Yeah, and I agree with you too. Like, a few days after me and him did this podcast, I got to meet him in person, and like talking to him, man, I was like, I felt like we were friends forever already. Like, he has,
he got that with everybody.
Yeah, he has that vibe to him, man. It's just like, dude, real cool guy, real down to earth, and I was glad that I was able to like do the podcast with him, and like then meet him a few days later. And all of you guys, man, like you and Chemo too. Like, I bumped into you guys, talked to you guys for a little bit. And all you guys are really, like, super down to earth. And, like, it's funny because, I saw all of you guys wrestle before I even started this podcast. And then, I was just watching you guys, right? Just as a wrestling fan. And then, I started the podcast, interview you guys. And, like, now it's kind of like, it's cool. Like, I feel like I have relationships with you guys. And, like, anytime I bump into you guys, it's nothing but love. So, this podcast, like, I tweeted it out, I think, a while back. It's just the coolest thing about this podcast for me is, like, the friendships and the relationships and the networking that comes with it, man. Because like every week, I try to do like 2 to 3 interviews a week, just to like stay ahead of everything. And every interview is, it's a different story. Like, you're meeting a new person and you're learning something new about this person. So like, man, this podcast is like, even though it's like not major yet, but like, if it like was to end now, like I appreciate like all the guests and just being able to hear all these stories and have these relationships. And Tony's one of them. You're one of them. Chemo, man, everybody that's been involved so far have been a great success for my podcast and just for me as a person as well. So
I bet like this whole thing. I mean, we're all in the business together. Whether you're a wrestler, a referee, a promoter, a reporter, anybody involved in wrestling, we all have the same goals to make each other as best as we can be. And at least that's the way I see it. So why not help somebody try to achieve their goals? I mean, if somebody's pursuing their passions, should give them up and do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get into this interview with Tony Vargas, man. Chemo, my man, Victor Sterling, who's on the intro with me and the first person to join me on the intro. So, congratulations, bro.
No, thanks, man.
Are definitely the future of pro wrestling and, really have left their mark on Northern California wrestling. So I hope you guys all enjoy the interview that I have with Tony Vargas. Like I mentioned, like I got to meet him a few days later, felt like I've known him forever. Most of you might not be able to meet him in person and watch him wrestle in person. But I hope this interview kind of gives you that feeling that you do know him and you get to hear his story and hear what he's all about. So I hope you guys all enjoy the conversation that I got to have with Tony, and here we go. And we're on with the Spinning Heel Kick podcast. As always, I got a very special guest with me tonight, a man from Big Time Wrestling, a member of Chaos Inc., and ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the rise of the machine. I got my boy Tony Vargas in the building. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, man. I just finished up watching the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens game. What a game. Did you check that out?
Oh, yeah. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan.
I figured. I saw your Instagram and I saw you're a Ravens fan. What a game, man. That ending was crazy.
It's something that the Ravens been doing all year, blowing fourth quarter leads, and I'm not going to lie, I was like, wow, we're really going to lose. And then, yeah, it's definitely an exciting moment.
How you feeling about the season? I know it's not although they won the game tonight, it hasn't been a great season so far.
No, I didn't have high hopes for coming into this season. I mean, with, the key players getting traded and then obviously starting the season, a lot of our star players getting injured. So, I mean, we play with a lot of second, third string and obviously bringing up the practice squad players. So, I mean, it is what it is. And for what the team we got, I mean, hey, can't really complain.
What's funny is I'm a St. Louis Rams fan, and we took out your quarterback last week.
No one even knew he was hurt until the final 2 minutes. And then he was like, yeah, tore my knee up.
Yeah, like, that's unbelievable. Like, to have one of the worst injuries you can get in sports, and, like, homeboy, like, finished the game pretty much. Like, I give him, like, props on that. But, man, my Rams season is not looking too good, man. I don't know what's going on with them. They're just a mess.
It happens. A lot of people are like, like when star players go out. At the end of the day, they're all professionals. They're all in the NFL. If you can't compete for that job, then, find a different hobby, But
exactly.
Definitely this year is a lot of teams are just not doing too well.
Yeah, that's very true, man. A lot of teams are struggling. I wanted to ask you, and, I'm glad I started talking about football because I saw you on Instagram, and I don't know if you were, like, ripping or anything, but, like, did you really try out for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I actually had a tryout with the Kansas City Chiefs. Funny story is, I went out there out of nowhere. I got a call saying, we want you to try out. So, like any football player, I was like all excited. I went out there, I did really good. And then that was the time around they signed Matt Castle. So there was really no need for me. So then I was pretty much a journeyman. So I tried out with the Kansas City Chiefs, the New York Jets, and the New York Giants.
Oh, wow. That's quite a list of teams to be trying out for. Was that was football your first passion?
No. Actually, I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler. And honestly, with football, it just kind of went hand in hand, like playing outside with my cousins and stuff like that. I was always a heavy-set kid, so I wasn't the fastest or something like that. But I always had the strongest arm, so I always got stuck playing quarterback. And then I want to say my freshman year in high school, I just went out and tried out for the team, became the starting quarterback, and the rest is history. But yeah, football is definitely not my first passion.
that's pretty amazing, man. Like, so, when it comes to wrestling, man, like, how did you get into wrestling? Like, what was your first memories of watching pro wrestling, and what really, like, grabbed your attention from it?
My earliest memories is like every Saturday or Sunday I'd go to my grandparents' house, and my grandfather would always have these VHS tapes of old school wrestling, like the territory wrestling. And so I'd go in there and watch those instead of cartoons, and then, like old Terry Funk and, Dusty Rhodes and, all those guys, Bruno Sammartino. So, like, watching those and then, watching the pay-per-views, the big pay-per-views like WrestleMania, Survivor Series, and Royal Rumble. Those were the top three that we would watch those religiously. So, I mean, yeah, from an early age, I loved it. I loved it.
Who are some of the wrestlers that, like, stood out to you that you kind of looked at as, like, superheroes? Because obviously, like, growing up as kids, like, it's likewise with me. Like, I watched cartoons, but I was watching wrestling so much more. And during the time that I grew up, like, the guys that were coming up was, like, the Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rocks, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Well, I caught the end of Shawn Michaels. But it seems like you were able to, like, grab, like, the golden era of pro wrestling. So who are some of the standouts to you, man?
Well, I was an 80s baby, so, like, I mean, the Demolition, LOD, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, just a lot of the old 80 wrestlers, Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, those guys. Like, I would watch those guys. Oh, man, it was good times. I honestly, during the Attitude Era, I didn't really watch much of the WWE. I was more of the WCW because the Cruiserweight division, I don't know. When I seen those guys wrestle, it was just like something like you've never seen before. The Dean Malenkos, the Chris Jerichos, the Rey Mysterios, and of course, Eddie Guerrero. So a lot of those guys, man, it's just watching them. Just every time I watch them, I'm a fan again. Like, I get these smiles on my face. Like, man, that's just crazy work that they're doing.
Were you always like the kid that, like, and like I was kind of different. So like when I was growing up as a kid, like I was like, I liked Triple H, I liked The Rock, because they're their characters. But like as I got older, I started appreciating the technical wrestling much more, like the Chris Benoits, like the Eddie Guerreros, Malenko, guys who really didn't have like a big personality, maybe other than Eddie Guerrero. But, I started appreciating their in-ring work a lot more. Were you kind of the same way, or you always knew like the guys that were much more technical was probably a little bit more entertaining than just the characters themselves?
Yeah, like I said, growing up in the early, the 80s wrestling, early 90s, WWE was gimmicky. You know, they had just these gimmicky wrestlers, and I don't know, I never really caught on to that. But yeah, it was the technical wrestlers. Like, I feel Arn Anderson's very underrated. And he's like one of my favorite wrestlers. But yeah, it's more of the technical base wrestling. You know, the high flying's cool and all, but I like the technical side of everything. You know, like, I like the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels because they were technical, but yet when they needed you, they could become that quote unquote high flyer and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, it's definitely the technical wrestler that set it out for me.
If you had to choose Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, who you picking?
Wow. Well, I'm going to say Bret Hart. The simple fact is, I like Bret Hart. It's really a hard one, to be honest with you. Like, growing up, I always thought I was a Bret Hart fan, but then I liked Shawn Michaels when he was with the Rockers. And then I'm not going to lie, when he put Marty Jannetty through that glass window, I was like, what? Why? That was my favorite tag team. So, I mean, honestly, that's a great debate, but if I had to choose, I would say Bret Hart.
Either way, you're making a solid choice. I was a DX fan, so like I have allegiance with Shawn Michaels. So, but like either way, like you're making a good choice. You know, like I always think about like, you know, when it comes to the WWE World Champions and their history, like bro, like I think about it, like how did Mr. Perfect not be a world champion, or like Rowdy Piper or Scott Hall, or even Martel, man. I think Martel is very underrated as well with his in-ring work.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like it blows my
even
mind.
Jake Roberts.
Yeah.
Jake Roberts, man. He had the total package. He just didn't have the quote unquote ideal wrestling body. Like his promo skills were like no other. His in-ring skills, his psychology, like all of it was just top notch. But I think what held him back is he didn't have the body like the Ultimate Warrior or, you know, the Hulk Hogan, the Triple H's, or the Rock, you know, and I think that's what held a lot of these great wrestlers back, you know, and it wasn't until, you know, Steamboat and Macho Man got the Intercontinental title, where at one point where the heavyweight was the top title, then people started watching the Intercontinental belts with those guys, so I don't know.
Yeah, that IC title belt meant a little bit more than a world title for a brief moment there, and that was pretty cool to see that. When did you...
What's that?
Go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
No, I was going to say, because like Intercontinental title was like my favorite title going. It still is, and I feel right now it's a joke belt.
Yeah,
you know, it's a joke belt, and it sucks because, you know, a lot of great superstars held that title, and now it's just one of those belts where it's like, hey, let's give it to this guy this week. This guy will have it next week, and I don't know. It sucks because to me, I still feel that's the granddaddy of them all, the greatest title. That's just me personally. So.
No, I agree with you too. For a brief moment, my favorite was the European title. I just thought that was a pretty cool belt, and I was a huge X-Pac mark, so like he had the title most of the times. But I agree with that, man. Like I really hope, you know, I'm a big fan of Kevin Steen, so I hope he kind of brings that prestige back to the IC belt. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really in his control. It's up to creative. So hopefully, I mean, they can do something with that IC title for the company and for Kevin Steen too.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Like, honestly, it's like nowadays the belts don't really mean nothing.
Yeah, they don't, man. That's
you know, and it's sad because it's like a lot of these guys, they bust their butt off day in and day out to be the top guy, and then they get the title, and 10 seconds later, someone cashes it in. Oh, money in the bank. Like, come on.
We could talk storylines all day, brother. We could talk about creative all day. I got my riffs with them, man. Like how'd you go from being a wrestling fan to finally deciding, you know, hey, I might want to do this for a living, or like, you know, be serious about the profession?
Well, I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler, but I've always thought the schools were back east or in the Midwest, and at the time I couldn't like just pack up and move. So, and then at the time, you know, I was actually getting scholarship offers and stuff like that playing football, so I was like, well, let's see what football takes me. Just like any, you know, 17-year-old kid, my dream was playing the NFL and make the millions and stay there. But I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler. And it wasn't until I was 27 years old where I actually started my pro wrestling career. I was training, because I did MMA as well, and I was training for a fight at a local gym of mine. And current wrestler now, goes by the name Brittle, Rich, he was a personal trainer there, and he, we talked, and he was like, "Oh, so you're training for a fight?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. I used to be a pro wrestler. I've been doing it for 12 years." And I was like, "That's awesome. I've always wanted to do it." And he goes, "Yeah, I have a couple friends that they go to the school, Big Time Wrestling, and it's right there in Newark." And I was like, "What?" Literally after that training session, I drove down there to one of their practices, signed up that day. The rest is history. I've been doing pro wrestling ever since.
How was that training? Because were you trained by Jason Styles?
Yeah, I was trained by Jason Styles. I literally started the same day as Victor Sterling.
Yeah, right on. He did mention that.
Yeah. So, yeah, we started the same day, and it was one of those competition things without really being competition. Because at the time, he's fresh straight out of high school, 18-year-old kid. I'm 27 years old. It helped us out because, like, certain things I couldn't do, he did, and vice versa. So we kind of had that little, I guess you say, inner practice competition going on, and it definitely helped us out, and, having that person there for 5 years now, practice and stuff like that, it definitely helped us out, like seeing him from day one till now is night and day, and it's awesome, putting the work into it. And yeah, it's definitely it's a good feeling when you see the progress.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And, like, it's good to have that competition within the same team, like, it inspires both of you guys to work harder and, like, kind of outdo each other in a way. But at the end of the day, it's like, without killing kayfabe, it's like you guys are proud of each other and, hope for success for each other as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, I even told him, like, from our first week of practice, I was just like, "Oh, man, shoot, you definitely had it." And it was cool because we were learning so fast that, I think it was a couple months in the training, and Jason comes up to us and was like, "Hey, you guys ready for your debut matches?" And we're like, "Look, we just wanted to, we haven't even gotten no spot of, like, our characters or nothing like that." It was just like, boom, you're going in there and you're just like, wow. Like, one hand, you're excited because you're like, yes. My hard work showing that they're going to put us in this match. But at the second hand, you're just like, oh man, I haven't even thought of, like, a ring name. I don't know my style. I don't know. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It was crazy.
So I've interviewed a few people that were trained by Jason Styles, and they've all, when I ask them, like, "Oh, what's the best advice that you've received in pro wrestling?" They always tell me the same thing from Jason Styles. I want to see if you know the same exact piece of advice that he's given you or possibly given you that stands out.
I mean, he's always pushed, do you want to be good or do you want to be great?
Okay.
That was the one thing that, he always pushed in us and stuff like that. Anytime we do something wrong and he knew that we were, half butting it or whatever, not giving 100%, he used to always yell like, "Hey, do you want to be good or do you want to be great?" That's the one thing I took from Jason. The guy was definitely a no BS type coach, which is awesome. He definitely keeps you on your toes. And so, I mean, that's the one thing that sticks out with me.
I know.
It's probably different from the other guys, but that's what sticks out with me.
From what I heard from everybody else, he has this one thing where he says, if you cut the corners, you're cut in life.
Oh, you cut corners in the ring, you cut corners in life. Yeah, he definitely said that a lot too. And it's true though, you don't give something 100%, don't expect, the big payout, I guess you would say. You want to not give it 100% in practice and you're wondering why you're not on the card, there's a reason for it.
And the cool thing about it too is, like, the advice you get, you're a pro wrestler and you're getting this advice, but this is advice that anybody can implement in their life, even if they're not a pro wrestler or they're just doing something else. Like, it makes sense just in general to, take that advice in and just implement it in your own life.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I said, the little quote, like, do you want to be good or do you want to be great?
Yeah, exactly. Anybody should be thinking.
I don't know anybody who grows up and is like, man, I wish I could grow up to be a loser. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's definitely things you can take in the real life world too. So.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say is, like, the hardest part about training? Because, like, we always, as wrestling fans and just, like, people that see fans and see wrestlers and see the shows, they always tend to say, it's just fake. Why are you watching it, right? What would you say is the hardest part about training that you can look somebody in the eye and say, yeah, this shit ain't fake. Like, this is the real deal.
Have you not seen my big old Stone Cold Steve Austin knee brace? Like, it's funny because you hear everyone who doesn't understand, oh, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. But at the same time, every time someone tells me, oh, it's fake, I tell them, okay, well, let me hit you in the face with a chair. Let me body slam you on this floor real fast. A lot of people in real life, they see all the glamour and stuff on the TV, but they don't see what these men and women go through. We're bumping on literally metal and plywood, on a daily, over and over and over, just to entertain the fan. And like I said, the hardest part about practice is practice. Because there's times where you don't want to go in that ring and you don't want to take those bumps and you don't want to do it, but yet you do it because it's something you love to do. And like I said, it just, on one end, it irritates me, but on the other end, it's, they don't really know the full story. So it's just like, yeah, whatever. You're just an outsider looking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're going to hear, oh, it's fake, oh, this, oh, that. And it's like, okay, dude, well, you see this big old scar on my knee where I tore my ACL? That was from pro wrestling. My crooked pinky, that's from pro wrestling. And it's like, I don't know. It's just funny to me when I hear him say, oh, it's fake. Like, all right, well, come step in the ring and then I'll show you how fake it is.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to see somebody go into the ring with you, man, try to start something. brother, like, every time, man, this is a shoot, man. Like, every time I see you and I go to the shows and see you wrestle, bro, there's always a section of badass people standing up, ready to rock the house for you, bro. Like, I'm like, I look over there, I'm like, there's gonna be a riot if homeboy Tony doesn't win this match.
Oh man, no, those are my dedicated. They're not even fans, man. That's family, man. That one section alone, they've been there from day one. They definitely come out. Big Ben, Pat, all those guys. We call ourselves the Death Squad. Team 3-Star. Those guys are. It's just an awesome group of guys right there.
And you guys have a chant,
they've been through my journey through everything. Through football, through MMA, through pro wrestling. Those guys are just.
Yeah, it's great to have that support system. And I noticed you guys have a chant, right? Where you guys are like barking or something.
Yeah, it all started. Honestly, I don't know how it started. One day we just came out. If I can pinpoint a time, it was when I was wrestling Shane Cody for the heavyweight title, and we were in the ring, and just like the heel face thing, I told Shane Cody, times has changed. This is my house now, new generation. I'm ready to take over as the heavyweight champion. And I told him this is my house now, and he said, "Let's see." So I get on the ropes, look at the fans, like, if they were going to boo or cheer me, all of a sudden everyone cheered and that whole section just started barking. So I went right back at him and then it got louder. So then when Cody went up on the ropes, they actually booed him. So if I had to pinpoint a time, it was definitely that time. And then we just started doing it. That's Chaos Inc. became a tag team. That was our thing. We would walk out. Like I said, they would travel with us. And as soon as we walk out, they went to chant, and there you go. They stuck with us.
Yeah, I was actually there for the match against Shane Cody, and I noticed that, and it was pretty cool to see that. Do you enjoy working as a heel or a face? I don't know. Have you worked as a face before? Because every time I've seen you, I feel like you were a heel every time.
I mean, lately, I guess you could say Chaos Inc. is a face at BTW right now. Personally, I prefer to be a face. I mean, a heel. But that's just me, because when you're a heel, you can just pretty much be yourself. If you're having a bad day, you can just take it out on the fans.
That's true, man.
You know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. It's just, that's my personality, believe it or not. That's how I am sometimes. Like, if I'm aggravated or whatever, that's just me, how it comes out.
That's good, though. It's kind of like, in a weird way, it's therapeutic, right? You go out there and it's like your coping skills of wrestle, and if you're having a shitty day, man, just take it out on fans and get that heat.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely works. I did a show not too long ago where, I wasn't having the best day, but went out there, did my thing, did my normal heel stuff. The promoter comes in the locker room and was like, "Hey, man, you did a good job being a heel. You got 3 guys out there who want to, they pretty much wanted to fight me." And I started laughing. I was like, "Yep, did my job."
Hey, exactly. Any reaction's a great reaction. How'd you come up with the gimmick, man? Like the look. Like, you got a badass look to you. Come out with the bandana. you're all tatted up. Like, is there a certain like portrayal that you're trying to go with that look?
It really isn't. Like I said, it's just me. You know, that's I guess you can say that's Tony on a bad day.
That's a great way of putting
it. That's just me, man. Like, I go out there and Tony Vargas is me, you know, and the whole look, the image thing, the bandana thing, Finn had a black bandana and it says Finn across it. And I was like, whoa, hey, I got a black bandana too. And that's how the bandana started. We're just like, hey, let's just rock them over our faces. Because when we got introduced as the tag team, we were a surprise tag team. So when I came out with the bandana, no one really knew because we had, you know, sweaters on and stuff like that. And then when Finn walked out with his and it said Finn, everyone knew, oh man, Finn and Vargas are a tag team now. And it was crazy.
How did that tag team come about with you and Sin and creating Chaos Inc.?
Well, I'll give you the backstory before you get the whole story. So the backstory with the whole pro wrestling career, mine hasn't been the most best career, I guess you can say. I had a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of doubts. Personally, I felt like I was getting overlooked and, you know, I wasn't getting my fair opportunity, as you would say. So, like I said, I started having the doubts. Like, why am I even in this business still? Why do I continue to wrestle? I do everything they ask of me, and yet, you know, nothing. But yet I see all these other outsiders coming in, and they're winning championships, and they're getting the push and this and that, and yet I'm here doing what I'm doing, no questions asked, and just kind of getting overlooked. So I was getting frustrated. And that's the same concept Sin had. You know, he's a 6'4", 320-pound guy. They want to build him as a monster, but then, you know, he's jobbing out to a guy who's 5'5", 120 pounds. So the frustration started getting there. And then me and Finn had a rivalry where literally we just beat the living heck out of each other, you know? And then once that rivalry was over, you know, he was thinking about quitting pro wrestling and altogether. He was like, you know, it's not worth it no more and this and that. And we actually did a battle royal. And this is my face to heel turn because I lost my high stakes championship. So all of a sudden I was going to become a heel. And we're in a battle royal. So that all of a sudden I turned heel that show. And I looked at Finn and I was like, let's just team up in this battle royal and go from there and see what happens. If you still want to quit, quit. If not, let's see where this tag team will get us. And we squared off in the middle of the ring. The crowd got crazy. And then we looked at the other people and we just started teeing off on them. And that crowd just went crazy for it. You know, long story short, Chaos Inc. was born.
And I think it's such a great team too. You guys are unique and you guys different, like very different from each other, which is cool. Like you need both wrestlers to be different and have different styles. And I think that's perfect for you guys. Yeah,
and it's funny because like it's night and day with this, you know. And I can't stress this enough, but Finn is underrated as far as his athletic ability. You know, people look at him and see his size and they're like, oh, he's just a typical big guy. But like I tell everybody, he's the dropkick guy of the tag team. I don't do dropkicks. He does.
Yeah,
you know, so. Sure. But, yeah, it's definitely been a fun run with us. You know, we've been tagging a little over a year and a half, and we have 2 tag titles for 2 different companies, and, you know, it's just an awesome ride right now, you know.
You know, you mentioned the companies, and what was the other company that you guys were tag champs at?
Fighting Spirit Pro.
Right on.
Outlander, California. So, yeah.
I was talking to Kimo about this too. Like, I'm starting to notice like NorCal is having a lot of different promotions, and the fact that everybody gets to work at the different promotions is really good for the pro wrestling business, but good for NorCal in general to get more exposure, man. It's pretty awesome to see that.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Like, at the end of the day, we're all independent wrestlers.
Yep, exactly.
You know, you're going to hear promotions bash other promotions and vice versa. And at the end of the day, it's like, look, we're all in the same business. You know, let's all just get along and put NorCal on the map, you know, because it's still question, you know, it looks better NorCal, SoCal, all that, you know, whatever. We're all pro wrestlers, you know, but I don't know, but like you said, there's definitely a lot more promotions coming up in NorCal, which is awesome because there's certain people that you don't really see at other promotions getting opportunities elsewhere, and that's awesome, because we become pro wrestlers to wrestle.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
the main goal.
Yeah, it's cool to see all this talent come up too. Like, it makes me proud to be coming from NorCal, because I know growing up, like, I didn't really know that any wrestlers came out of like San Jose or just the Bay Area in general and became, pro wrestlers and did their thing. But like now, as 25 years old, I'm watching all of you guys and I'm like, holy shit, these guys have the potential to become something great, and they're coming out of the Bay. Like that makes me super proud as a wrestling fan. And I think you got a bright future too, bro. Like, I like your style. And like the recent match that I saw you in was against JR Kratos, who I think very highly of as well. Man, you guys were brutal in that match against each other.
Yeah, it's definitely fun when you wrestle a guy who's not afraid to get hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it makes it that much easier.
Yeah,
but no, like I said, it's just I haven't really pushed myself. Like I was telling you earlier, like I was told this, told that, be this guy, be this way, be that way, and I really haven't like brought out the real Tony Vargas until recently. I don't know if it's my way of saying, hey, just shut up and let me be me, but hey, shut up and let me be me. And this is what's going to happen. Like, there's a different Tony Vargas. There's more to me than what you guys been seeing the past 4 years. Like I said, 2016 is my year. I'm not holding back no more. I'm not going to, I guess you could say, dumbing myself down to what makes someone else look better or vice versa. No, I'm going to go ahead and do what I got to do. And if you can't keep up, that's on you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You better take 2016, man. Take it over, brother. Who's some of your favorite opponents, man? Like, it seems, even though you've been in the business for like some short time, but like, do you have anybody favorite that you work with that you guys always have like great matches?
My top three, I would have to say, is Sin, Victor Sterling, and Chris Masters. I feel those three. I think my Chris Masters match definitely got me noticed. And then my matches with Victor Sterling, like I said, we just clicked together. Same with Sin. From day one, we just clicked, and those makes, like, there's times where me and Sin will do our match. We won't even say nothing. We'll just go out there and just put on a match. So like I said, those three right there are definitely my top three favorite guys to work. I got fortunate enough to work Chris Masters, quite a few times, three to be exact, and all three times they were fun. And like I said, it's always fun to wrestle Victor Sterling. That's it. So those three right off the bat.
Yeah, no, definitely. You guys have great chemistry in the ring. A conversation I like to have or talk about this certain topic, especially with folks that, kind of grow up in the same area as me, is like, you're from Hayward, I believe?
Yeah, I'm from Hayward.
So growing up in Hayward, obviously like the Bay Area has its nice parts and then it has like some shady parts as well. Like, how did you like motivate yourself to kind of, especially I think Hayward's kind of known for kind of having some trouble. Like, how did you stay away from, that's me speaking lightly, right? But like, how were you able to stay away from trouble and kind of stay on the right path? And like, what kind of struggles and sacrifices that you have to make to go out and reach your dreams? Because like, when I started this podcast, and I mentioned this pretty much in every episode, is that the theme of my pod, like, we're talking about wrestling and your career, but the overall theme of the podcast is kind of like uplifting the youth and the younger generations to, go out and fight for your dreams, because no matter what anybody says, like, you still have the ability to go out and get, achieve your dreams, because, as long as you stay hungry and motivated, you can make it happen. So like, what's something like you would say to a kid that's coming up in a rough area or just like are having challenges going out and being motivated to reach their dreams? And if you have an example of your own story that you can share as well.
Yeah. Well, like for me, it wasn't, I don't know, like, yeah, Hayward's rough, but I guess because I grew up there, I don't see it that way. Like the quote unquote gangbangers and thugs that people see, I just know them as, because I grew up with them. So I guess it didn't really bother me per se, but like, when they did do their stuff they shouldn't, me personally, it was just, I was always I had really bad asthma. When I was born, I was in an incubator for like my first 3 months, and like I said, the doctors didn't think I was going to be athletic at all. So my thing was I always had to prove someone wrong. Like, no, I can play football. I can play basketball with my cousins. I can play baseball with my cousins. And that was my thing, was constantly proving people wrong. So growing up in Hayward, like I said, to me, I didn't look at it as growing up in the ghetto or whatever like that. I just looked at it as this is my home. And the way I look at things is I didn't want to be the guy who's 50 years old looking back at my life like, man, I wish I would have been a pro wrestler. Or I wish I'd been the football. Or I wish I would have done this. No, I've been pretty fortunate with my life as far as, my sports. I've been on the top of every sport I played with. And as far as me, it was just focused. It was just sports, to be honest with you, man. That's what really kept me out of trouble and stuff. Like, I always wanted to play some type of different sport. I mean, put it this way, I lettered twice in badminton in high school.
Really?
So that was just me. Like, someone told me that I could play badminton. I was like, watch. I lettered in it, and I stayed first team. So, I mean, that was my thing. It was just sports was my outlet, and it's just my way of getting my mind off my asthma too. So,
yeah, and that's like
that was me.
With me, as my full-time career working as a counselor for at-risk youth, like, my thing is always like teaching these kids like, hey, like, sports is a great outlet and you don't know what you can be good at. And if you're good at it, like, you don't know where it can take you. So like, I always felt like even growing up, I grew up in San Jose, and like, I really agree with what you said is like, wherever you grow up, you don't really look at the bad parts or think bad of it because that's where you grow up. You know the people around you. And I kind of was in the same situation as you. And it's true. Like, you just look around and you're just like, it's my buddies. And then sometimes, like, obviously, like, the people around you make the wrong choices. But, like, I felt like I had people looking over me saying, hey, man, like, don't make these choices. Make the right choices. Go play sports and do whatever. So that's what I try to teach these youngins running around here and the young generations, to make the right choices and kind of go out and fight for their dreams, man. Because at the end of the day, you got this one life. Do whatever it is that you want, and it's going to make you happy at the end of the day.
Exactly. Like, just make the best of it, I would say, like, you see these kids now, everyone's all hooked up on the video games and social media and this. Like, when I was growing up, like, I was never inside the house. I was always outside playing something. And my thing was, like I say, when someone said, oh, I don't think you can do this, and I'm like, watch. And that was my motivation, was just trying to prove people wrong. And I don't know, it's just so far so good.
Yeah, it worked out for you, bro. So before we kind of end the podcast, I want to talk about the tattoos, bro. When did you get your first tattoo, and which one's your favorite?
Wow, that's definitely a hard question.
It's all I'm about. I'm sending out questions. I like giving questions that make you think, brother.
Yeah. I mean, I like all my tattoos. I don't really per se have a favorite one, because they're all meaningful. Like, when you look at them, you see just a bunch of random tattoos. But when I look at them, it's stuff I like. Like my left arm, I'm Mexican, Puerto Rican, and Spanish, and my whole left arm has the sugar skulls, the Aztec serpent, the Aztec calendar. Rosary and stuff like that, the Puerto Rican flag and Puerto Rican islands. So it's just, like I said, my whole left arm is pretty much like my nationality, my heritage. My right arm is kind of a mixture of everything I like. So, I mean, I can't really per se say that, one's my favorite. I like them all. That's the reason why I got them.
That's a great answer, brother. Like, I like that. I like them, so I got them. That makes
I mean,
sense.
You get some people that are like, oh man, I seen so and so have, I don't know, like a BMW symbol on it, so they went and got it, and then they regret it, and then they get it covered up some years later. I don't know. All my tattoos, like I said, if you're on the outside looking in, they're just a bunch of random tattoos. But for me, they all mean something. It's who I am. Yeah. Like you said, I walked out and I got this image, I guess you would say. But man, at the end of the day, I'm just a goofy guy. And dude, I got a Star Trek tattoo. Come on.
That's awesome, man.
You know, I always say I'm a nerd who knows how to play.
Yeah. Hey, that could be your next gimmick, man. I like that.
So, like I said, but as far as picking one, I can't. Man. I enjoy all of them.
Yeah, that's
I wouldn't change any of them.
So we're coming to the end of the podcast, man. So, before we shut this down, like, what does the future look like for Tony Vargas, man?
Bright. I'm sorry, like, it's going to be bright. For those who slept on me and turned their backs on me and, felt I couldn't, when I succeed in 2016, don't say you know me. That's all I got to say. I'm taking over everything. Titles, I don't care. Heavyweight, light heavyweight, tag team, whatever. I'm taking over. It's my year. I'm not holding back anymore. It's going to be an exciting year. So, like I said, if you support me, enjoy my journey. If you don't say you know me when I blow up.
You heard it there, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Vargas is taking over 2016, and he's going to be a household name. So keep out and watch out for my boy Tony Vargas, and you can catch him at Big Time Wrestling. Thank you all for listening.